Internet logic is the coolest thing in the entire world. I mean, not only do I get to learn that every weld repair I make is completely wrong, but I also get to learn that I'm leaving a lot of money on the table because according to comment math, my labor rate and what I charge to do these jobs is not nearly enough. So if you want to learn how this turbo oil drain job is worth over $4,000 and how I actually made nothing because I screwed up, then stick around. You should do that. Thanks. So here's today's mess of a job. We've got this oil pan from a Honda that currently has a threaded AN10 turbo drain port kind of stuck in there with a bunch of sealer and other stuff. We basically got to get that out of there, clean up all the surfaces, and weld on a permanent AN10 bung. Basically. Simple, right? Then we're going to be really cool and we're going to get all this sludge out of the pan because it's going to make our job look that much better overall. Let's begin this job. Now, I decided to time this job from start to finish because over the years, some people in the comments think that it takes like 15 minutes just to like walk to the toolbox, which like, dude, if your toolbox is that far away from your workstation, you got some serious efficiency problems. What is that, a 1-inch? We'll need that. And of course, it would be completely foolish of me to think you guys would watch 100% completely uncut footage just to prove how long a job actually takes. So we'll keep referring back to that clock throughout the video. Okay, all the goopy stuff came off the backside. Let's look at the, oh no. Oh, what do we got? Wow, okay. Oh, I thought it cracked for a minute, but that's just like JB Weld, I think. Okay, no big deal. No big deal. So we can see here where it was mounted inside of this area here, that little valley. I don't really like that. So I'm probably just going to pop the plug on there. We'll see if we can weld it all the way around. I should be able to weld it all the way around. I don't know. But let's focus on getting this thing cleaned up. Initial cleaning is pretty straightforward. This is obviously an oil pan, which means there's going to be oil residue all over it, and oil does not like to be welded. The best product I've used over the years to clean this stuff up is called Crud Cutter. And it's a non-toxic, water-soluble, very effective, doesn't try to kill you from asphyxiation, you know, stuff like that. And no, this video is not sponsored by Crud Cutter, it's just what I use. I mean, you can use whatever you want, I don't really care, as long as it's something that's not toxic like brake cleaner or whatever. To give the Crud Cutter a little bit of a boost and dig into this thing, we're going to take some additional layers off with a stainless steel wire wheel on the end of my drill, and then take a look at what we got to work with. It may be just slightly hard to see here, but these threads obviously have a bunch of junk inside of them, and this doesn't quite fit all the way in there, so we're going to grab a hold of a carbide, a little bit of air, and we're going to chase that out, make it nice and clean. See if we can get that set in there a little bit better, a little bit more cleanliness. Now this part might be a little bit tough to see, so let's do some Hollywood action here and enhance it. There we go. Now, the important takeaway here is that I am only removing the threads. I don't really want to make the hole too big to the point where there's like a massive gap that I have to fill in. So we gotta let the carbide tool do all the work here, not your muscles. It's a very, very light touch, especially with a tool this aggressive. Okay, so I stopped the timer just shy of, what, about almost 12 minutes. I think we're at like 11:51. You know what, we're just going to skip this part. The camera was being all shaky, which is kind of nauseating, and I figured instead of being all boring and talk about what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do here in a moment. So moving on to prep, acetone is going to be used to clean the surface up. It's actually kind of funny that on the swing arm video, I said and showed me cleaning the part with acetone, and there were a bunch of comments that said I should have cleaned the part with acetone. So in this video, I'm making sure that you're noticing me using acetone. And if you can comment down below confirming that you have seen me use acetone to clean this part, I'd appreciate it, so others would know. I use acetone to clean the part. I also managed to get a new gas bottle for my torch. So we'll do a quick little preheat on the pan before I fire up the welding machine. Now, I know some people questioned me using the heat gun on the swing arm video thinking that it wasn't enough, but heat is heat. The part doesn't really care where the heat comes from as long as it gets hot. The torch is just a little bit quicker. Now, my machine takes a couple of minutes to boot up because it's basically a computer that welds, so I will take this time to not only set up my station, but also clean up my station. This is maximizing efficiency. In other words, I won't be charging the customer extra time for cleanup after the job if I utilize this time where the machine is booting up to do some cleanup. My settings for this job are whatever settings I used the last time I welded something, which is 40% balance because the part is cast and I need that extra cleaning cycle, and 125 Hz because I don't feel like adjusting it. I started with 114 amps on the machine thinking it would be overkill, but I actually ended up turning up the machine later to 130 amps. It's as if this was set up and ready for me to weld right away, so I don't have to waste a whole bunch of time doing that. I love it. My tungsten, cup, consumables, torch, filler wire, gloves, the table I'm working on, and just about every other thing you can see in here can be found at weldmetalsonline.com, which is my welding supply store. There you can get welding practice material, fun projects, and just about anything you need to get started welding. Use my code TFS10 at checkout to save on most items on the store and support more videos with lots of free information just like this one. Cast aluminum is a very unique material, and finding two castings that act the exact same is very, very rare. But it is very porous in nature, which is a fancy way of saying that this is kind of like welding a sponge. Once you start melting it, little pockets of air and trash that were once trapped within the material begin to surface. So the first pass is what we call a junk pass. The purpose of the junk pass is to run the torch over the top of the area to be welded, which will push all the junk contained within the part out, and the liquid metal will settle back down as a solid, which kind of gives it a new fresh surface to weld upon. Depending on how the casting is behaving at the time, a drop or two of filler might help to push and displace out the junk. You might notice here that there are still a few pinholes remaining after this junk pass, which normally I would say keep pushing them out until it's all super clean, but I've probably done about 1,000 Honda castings in the past 24 years that I've been doing this, and I know that once I get some big filler in there, these holes will push and purge out. It's just experience. Now, when I mentioned big filler, I meant bigger than what I was using just a moment ago. I switched up from 1/16 filler on the junk pass to 3/32 filler on this fill pass. It's not the biggest, but it's definitely bigger. Now, I want larger amount of filler to deposit and displace any remaining bubbles. Since the filler material is heavier than air, it floods the area once a bubble comes out and blends into the untouched areas better. And you might have noticed that my camera got bumped, so I can't show you the entire shot, but rest assured, it all got filled in completely with no bubbles remaining, and here's a quick shot of the inside. Now, the outside is going to be done just a little bit differently here. Since the inside is more accessible, then the inside is going to be for strength. The outside pass will not include a junk pass since it is mostly there for, I don't know, peace of mind, it looks better, whatever. I don't show me going back and forth to turn the timer on and off between resetting the camera for all of these arc shots, and that's mostly because I want to keep the temperature of the pan up, which actually helps quite a bit to avoid the junk pass. But I did switch the timer on and off each time I had to reset the focus of the camera, and this keeps my labor time fair. Something else worth mentioning here is my technique for welding without a junk pass. Now, since I want to keep as many bubbles out of this bead, I am purposely keeping the arc pointed or biased more at the existing bead with less amps pumping into it. In other words, slowly heating up the bead will cause the bead to barely penetrate the oil pan but still be hot enough to flow and blend. If a bubble does surface, I can pause just a bit longer or add a small drop of filler to push it out. Bubbled right up on me. I'm not even going to edit that out. Again, the outer bead is really there just to be there. It doesn't really serve any purpose, other than, like I said, like peace of mind. And time. 31 minutes. Not bad. The last two things I have to do to finish this job is to smooth the inside of the bung out just a little bit in case any weld bead was blocking the port, which wouldn't be that big of a deal at the end of the day, but these little details here do make your work stand out. Something else that makes your work stand out is simple.
cleaning up your mess. All of these little chips that we just ground out of there are stuck to the remaining oil inside of the pan like stripper glitter. And while any smart person would clean the pan before they reinstall it, it's just one of those little extra steps that make your work stand out above the rest. A few extra minutes to make your work look good is never a bad thing, and all this took was some crud cutter, a rag, and a quick rinse with water.
Hello, wake up. 38 minutes. 38 minutes to get this pan welded up and cleaned, well, at least on the inside. So let's talk money, because I know you guys absolutely love it when I disclose to you how much I charge for this stuff. It helps people out, and I like to help people out. Now, this particular job I originally quoted at about 60 bucks plus the price of the bung, which is $15. That would have been a $75 repair, and in all honesty, I came in under on that one. I should have charged 90 bucks for the labor because that's how long it actually took me based on my rate, plus the bung at $15 would have been a $105 job, right? But when I tell people all of that, they tend to say, okay, I'm not nearly charging enough for what it is that I do. Or I should be charging more based on how much I make on YouTube, because if I'm not doing YouTube stuff and I'm doing this, I need to offset the cost of that. They're saying it's not fair for me to tell people the hourly rate or the labor rate I would charge if I had a regular shop minus the YouTube videos, right? They say it's not fair, it's unrealistic. But it's actually not. So let's do the quick math on this one, right? The last weld repair was the swing arm that I did, which I did that for the second time in 3 years. 3 years previously, I charged the customer 40 bucks for the job, which was 20 minutes worth of work based on my rate. That was how much it costs to do it. That's the labor that was paid to me. And the video just so happened to pay about 750, 760 bucks, making that weld repair an $800 job. When I told people that on the last video, well, it ticked the algorithm, and that video is paid close to 3,700 bucks now. So that means that the 2 weld repairs that I did over the course of 3 years have paid me $4,500 for 40 minutes worth of work. In other words, I should be charging about $7,500 an hour for the work that I do. This job took about 40 minutes to do, which means I should have charged $4,500 to weld this bung on according to internet math. What do you think is fair? Would you pay $4,500 for this? Plus the $15 bung? Now, the reason why I'm not charging this customer, this is another one of those valuable lessons that you got to learn. And even though sometimes I screw up just the same, and I did here too. This job was originally supposed to take me a couple days after he dropped it off. I was a little bit busy, but then I got slammed, and I mean swamped. We got distribution orders for weld metals. We got friggin' massive school orders. We got a bunch of other stuff. Our customers started ordering more and more, like they typically do around this time of the year. Weld metals got swamped, and I'm a little bit short-staffed. So this is 3 weeks late getting done. In that 3 weeks, I've lost the customer's number. I originally would have written it down, which is what I do with every customer's information. But in this case, I was like, oh yeah, I'll be done with it in a couple days. Number should still be on my phone. Now I can't find it. So, by the time the customer comes back around and says, hey, you got my oil pan? I'm going to be like, yep, here you go. Absolutely no charge whatsoever. Very sorry it took this long to do. Hope they come back. Hope they understand. They are also a business. So, maybe I'll get lucky, but I'm not going to charge for this just because of that, whether I made this video or I didn't make this video. So I want to know what you think about my policy or my process or whatever it is on this one. Let me know down in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.